Kisaeng Women. Ever heard of them? Not many people have. Who were the Kisaeng women? Courtesans, artists, cultural ambassadors for their country. In the 19th century Korea, Kisaeng women lived very tricky lives. They were praised for their looks and their talents, yet they were held back by society's strict social standings. When the time came, Western and Japanese missionaries or travelers came to Korea and encountered the Kisaeng women, often to describe them as exotic or misunderstood via the travelers' eyes, really. In the video, I'm going to explore how Kisaeng were represented via the eyes of the outsiders and what this reveals about cultural judgment and power. Let's start at the basics, shall we? Well, Kisaeng women, also known as Kinyo, were trained entertainers during the Choson dynasty. They were trained to sing, dance, write poetry, and accompany those of the elite class. They were very often placed at the bottom of society, as they were classed as the lowest in the hierarchy, even though they would perform for a royal family at the royal courts and palaces, and in places of cultural prestige. They sadly, however, didn't lead glamorous lives. They were registered by the state and trained up from a young age, meaning that they lacked their own freedom. However, they did benefit from having things that most ordinary women could not during that era: the right to an education. Even if it is an education in the arts, it was an education that many women could not afford. During the late 1800s to early 1900s, many outsiders traveled to Korea in search of an understanding, or even to share their own experiences and ideals and teachings to these Korean people. On their journeys through Korea, they encountered Kisaeng, and with that, they had little context, which meant that they were led to a lot of biased opinions. Most travel writers would describe them as immoral or pitiable. They were framed via the moralistic Christian views of the period, meaning that they were often depicted as fallen or trapped women by Korea's outdated class systems. The descriptions often made by writers would describe their character more than it would the women themselves, not letting them have an explanation, only being a surface level. The main topics of discussion were the Kisaeng's clothes, the way they spoke, and their role within society, all the while viewed through this biased opinions of them being exotic towards the outsiders. One Japanese magazine even depicted a Kisaeng in a cage, an image that speaks volumes about the objectification that these women were placed in, to be a spectacle to the Korean elites back in that day. The clothes that the Kisaeng women would usually wear are labeled as kinyobok. It didn't really differ to the already worn clothes by the women of the Korean public at the time. However, due to their profession and their social standing, Kinyo wore garments that differed in material, length, silhouette, and also the materials used for their ornaments. To really understand these Kisaeng women that were perceived in the 19th century, we're going to take a look at some images. These images are shown in different historical contexts. Often these pictures were taken for travel books, missionary journals, or Japanese magazines, or even just paintings for historical records. The images don't just accompany the text, they are the text themselves. They tell their own stories. They shape the reader's understanding of who these women truly were. This was a difficult feat to get through, as there is not much footage on these women. These women are very hidden by society. The research has been scarce just for the authentic visual materials depicting them. Many of the existing photographs were produced by the foreign travelers or during the Japanese colonial period, often showing them through the cultural bias that exists. The images frequently served as tools of tourism or colonial propaganda rather than accurate representations of these women's lives and their identities. Because the lack of visual materials created by the Kisaeng women themselves, we're not able to hear their true voices or perspectives that are largely absent from the historical records. This absence not only limits our understanding, but also highlights the broader issue of marginalized groups being represented primarily through the interpretations of others. Consequently, any analysis must be approached with a critical eye, acknowledging the context in which these images were produced and potential distortions that they may carry. We are interpreting images that were originally interpreted by people who were not of Kisaeng work or from Korean culture necessarily. Here is a Kisaeng woman sat in front of a beautiful painting behind her, those of which they would perform pansori and sing and perform in front of these pictures in the background. Just like here, they would use their kayagams and be a comfort to those of the elite class, the yangban. This is a young girl and what she used to wear on the everyday as a Kisaeng woman. A little bit more elite than the regular clothing that they would wear, yet still classy enough to prove that she is of that class. This is a painting provided of the Kisaeng women on Tano Day and how they are all together outside collectively in the banks just doing everyday tasks. Just like this, they are taking a picture for school, proving that they are still very similar to ordinary women, yet had different experiences.